Right now, someone out there is a better thinker because of you.
First Lady Dr. Jill Biden teams up with Utah's First Lady Abby Cox about a cause they both have in common.
Our next storm pushing through in the overnight hours. What does it mean for your morning commute? I'll let you know.
Utah's minimum wage and a livable wage. One state lawmaker says what workers earn now doesn't cut it. His plan to raise the minimum wage depending on your age.
The plan isn't perfect, but we think it's a step in the right direction.
After losing access to some popular trails in Moab, the length some Utahns are willing to go to get them back.
It seems that distrust in all institutions, especially governmental ones, seems to have increased exponentially.
And one branch of the government has a message for another branch of the government, one that could impact every Utahn.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Evans.
And I'm Kelly Chapman. First Lady Dr. Jill Biden took a day trip to Utah today. East Coast winter weather delayed her arrival by just a bit, but she made it right when school was getting out to pay a visit with Utah teachers.
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser was there for her appearance today.
A Wolverine welcome for First Lady Dr. Jill Biden.
Welcome to Hunter High School, home of the Wolverines.
FLOTUS stopped by the West Valley High School on Tuesday, accompanied by Utah's First Lady Abby Cox. The visit was all about highlighting the importance of educator wellness.
I know that sometimes it feels like the weight, of teachers like you across the country, the weight is too much to carry.
It's a topic both Biden and Cox are passionate about. Both women are teachers.
I know that you're seeing the trauma that they bring with them. I know that that is hard, and it's an extra burden for you.
Hunter High employees were happy to hear their work is valued.
I think it's the most important thing right now. I think if you can't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to help other people.
I was surprised that they chose Hunter High, and I was wondering what was that made us choose that, but I'm super honored.
The school has several programs centered around helping one another and prioritizing mental health-focused professional development days.
We understand, and we're working to honor this profession, to give you the support that you deserve.
After her remarks, Dr. Biden had time to mingle with the crowd and even listen to a student performance.
Never underestimate your power or your worth. Right now, someone out there is a better thinker because of you.
Dr. Biden's visit to Utah was not long. It wasn't even overnight. After her visit to Hunter High School here, she went up to Park City for a fundraising event and then flew into San Francisco later on Tuesday night. Reporting in front of Hunter High, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
To watch the First Lady's full speech, go to fox13now.com. Utah's minimum wage has been holding steady at $7.25 an hour for 13 years, a wage some say is no longer relative. Kelly?
Bob, 22 states did raise their minimum wage at the start of this new year. Utah not one of them, and I wanted to find out why. We've been stagnant in increasing minimum wages despite inflation. I went to the Utah State Capitol and the Department of Workforce Services to get answers and learn more about a new bill that advocates for special needs employees and another that pays you more the older you are. For more than a decade, Utah's minimum wage has been set at $7.25 per hour.
I think it's not enough for people to live on.
A rate established in 2011, Representative Brett Gardner says simply doesn't cut it.
A lot of families are struggling, and we need to make sure that they have the resources that they need.
This legislative session, Representative Gardner is running two bills.
What we're trying to do is move those wages up for people who are working at the lowest levels and need to start building their careers.
One of the bills is to require people with disabilities be paid the state-set hourly wage.
There are several exemptions to the minimum wage in Utah. One of those is for disabled individuals.
He tells me currently there are about 500 disabled workers in the state getting paid lower than $7.25 an hour. In addition, Representative Gardner wants to create an age-based wage tier for everyone using this structure. Workers under the age of 18 would make $10 an hour. 18 to 21-year-olds would make $15 an hour. 21 to 23 years would make $17 an hour. And any worker 23 years old and over would need to make a minimum wage of $18 an hour. Is that enough?
Well, it may not be, and that's one thing that I'm kind of hoping that we can get some negotiation on.
I took this wage plan to Mark Nold, chief economist at the Utah Department of Workforce Services. He says there's a difference between minimum wage and livable wage.
The livable wage would be something that is a higher level than a minimum wage. It's ones where you have people who are trying to support a life, support careers. And minimum wages is meant for something different. It's just kind of to come up on the bottom of the overall pay scales and just kind of put a floor in there. It benefits most for the teens and some of the lowest wage earners out there.
Adding minimum wage state law right now isn't holding true to our current market.
When you have tighter labor markets, there's a natural tendency then in the market for wages themselves in the market to go higher. The market currently is setting a different and a higher minimum wage than what is on paper.
But despite the majority of working Utahns above a $7.25 pay rate, Representative Gardner says he wants his bill to pass to make it official, perhaps creating an even stronger labor force.
We need to do everything we can to draw out every single person that can work into the labor force, and part of that is paying them more money.
Representative Gardner tells me he is hopeful both of his bills, pay for special needs workers and the age-based minimum wage scale, will pass. Fox 13 will follow both proposals and keep you updated as they try and make it to the governor's desk.
Well, depending on where you are in Utah, hopefully you have plenty of ice melt, snow shovels, and gas for the snow blower. You may see more snow during your morning commute tomorrow.
We want to go over to Utah Weather Authority, Breck Bolton, and I know people at home, depending where you live, are in your mind thinking, well, you said that over the weekend and I didn't really see much snow, but these storms are setting up differently.
Well, you didn't see much snow in the valleys. Other locations saw plenty, and of course the mountains just got pounded. But here, as we started the work week off, a nice break, but not a break from the cold, where this morning we had dangerous wind chill temperatures, especially across northern Utah. Let me just share some of the totals that came through, or some of the specific numbers. Where Logan this morning coming in at -18 wind chill temperature earlier around between 6 and 7 a.m. Laketown, how about -26? Evanston, -13. We had that wind chill warning in effect. That expired throughout the day, but take a look at your high temperatures, where in Logan we only made it up to 9 degrees, 20s for your highs in Ogden, only made it up to freezing there in Salt Lake City, where many temperatures through central and southern Utah, not too bad. We stand at sub-zero temperatures though in Logan at this hour. Right now we're at 14 degrees in Ogden, 11 in Park City, 17 in Evanston, as we prepare for this next storm system. With these cold temperatures, especially at the surface, as precipitation falling as snow, it will quickly stick to the roads. Where is that snow right now? Under a westerly flow, we're starting to see the makings of that storm, where we're looking upstream, where right now mainly clouds tracking here across northern Utah. But as you go along I-80 through Nevada, you're seeing some snow, you're seeing some rain as well. What will you see as you wake up tomorrow morning? I'll answer that coming up.
Thanks so much, Breck. A 51-year-old woman is in critical condition after being hit by a car in a crosswalk.
Cottonwood Heights police tell us it happened at 9 o'clock this morning. The woman was walking westbound on Fort Union and crossing at Highland Drive. Officials say she had the right of way when a woman driving eastbound in an SUV hit her. They do not know what caused the driver to not see the pedestrian. However, they do not believe speed was a factor. The incident is still under investigation.
Today, Ogden police released details about an officer-involved shooting that left one man dead. They say 28-year-old William Toon was already a suspect in a shooting from November and a stabbing deemed an attempted homicide in December, both taking place in Pleasant Grove. On Sunday, officers found Toon's car in the parking lot of a convenience store in Riverdale. Toon was inside and refused to be taken into custody. That led to an altercation where 3 Ogden officers and 1 Pleasant Grove officer shot and killed him.
This is not what we wanted to have happen, but we react and we respond to the suspect's actions, unfortunately, and unfortunately it led to this.
None of the Ogden officers had body cameras because they were part of the gang and narcotics teams. Pleasant Grove officer's body camera was recording. That video was turned over to the Weber County Critical Incident Team. The officers are all on paid administrative leave until the investigation is complete.
Today, Nicholas Rossi, the man accused of raping a woman in Orem 15 years ago and later faking his own death, made his first court appearance since being extradited to Utah from Scotland. Rossi caused almost immediate confusion during the virtual hearing. Take a look at this.
Are you Mr. Rossi?
No, lady, my name is Arthur Knight Brown. My date of birth is 22nd of the 11th, 1986.
The judge even questioned whether she had the correct person on her screen before realizing this was one of Rossi's different aliases. Rossi is facing charges of sexual assault here in Utah, as well as additional charges in Ohio and Rhode Island. The judge ordered Rossi not to have any contact with the victim of the alleged crime. Rossi is due back in court on January 26th at 1 p.m.
The 45-day legislative session is underway. What are the top priorities of your state lawmakers? We'll show you.
We actually can use the Aral Sea as an example of where we don't want to go.
Plus, in the fight to save the Great Salt Lake, we'll share lessons learned from a similar lake on the other side of the world.
Big night for college basketball in the state. BYU at home against Iowa State in the top 25 matchup, and Utah State going after their 16th win in a row.
Today was the first day of the Utah legislative session, and lawmakers have a big list of items to tackle. For newly elected House Speaker Mike Schultz, the environment is a top priority.
We are committed to protecting our state's natural resources for future generations while also supporting responsible and reasonable energy and resource development.
Senate leaders focused on energy policy, but also proposed something big. A bill will be coming to offer bonuses to certain high-performing teachers, bumping their pay to more than $100,000 a year.
We want to make sure really that a high-quality teacher in the best places where they can have the most impact, by the time they mid-career, they should start knowing that this is a $100,000 career.
The legislature is wasting no time getting to controversial bills. Legislation dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion in higher education and government could be heard tomorrow. On Thursday, Governor Cox will speak to the people of Utah in his annual State of the State address.
Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Yeah!
A rally being held at the Capitol today to make sure teachers' voices were heard at the beginning of the legislative session. Issues they're rallying for is increasing funding for Utah schools, reducing class sizes, and more tutors and paraprofessionals within their schools.
We're seeing an influx of refugee students and English language learners in our schools, and we want to have smaller class sizes so teachers can concentrate and support those students.
According to their website, Salt Lake Education Association is a group dedicated to helping teachers secure fair conditions and professional growth opportunities.
All right, so start things off. Looking at your weather forecast, this is what we're gearing up for. This is not looking here throughout the state, but over towards Nevada. From their traffic cameras, just north of Winnemucca, we're starting to see the showers fall, a mixture of rain and snow. Where this is going to be the situation with this next storm along the valley floors. In some locations along the Wasatch Front, it will be a mixture of rain and snow. Others, though, all snow and significant accumulations for the mountains. Today's high, though, only getting up to 32 degrees. On average, we should be in the upper 30s. We'll get back to average and actually above average over the next several days. But we've got two storms to talk about, one right on our doorstep. Outside right now, we've been noticing clouds coming through here across northern Utah. Temperatures still very chilly. Low 20s currently in Salt Lake City. Teens in Ogden, single digits, even sub-zero temperatures up in Logan. But right now in Provo, you're at 23 degrees. Here today, though, because we had the cold and if we had snow on the ground, inversion quickly setting up. You notice a little bit more haze moving into that moderate concern level for many counties here along the Wasatch Front. Tomorrow won't be an issue because we have a storm and a series of storms moving through the weekend. We're going to keep this air mixed out. As we do, though, with this next storm system for the National Weather Service, winter weather advisories in place for the mountains of northern through central Utah, western Uinta Mountains. Now, some of the valleys under this winter weather advisory, as this will be in effect for tonight through early Thursday morning. Notice the locations for the valleys. It's Box Elder, Cache, Rich County, moving up through Ogden as well. As you move further northward, because of colder temperatures, the snow will fall and accumulate. Impressive amounts. Let me just show you here, looking over the next 24 hours for the mountains, kind of on a range between 10 to 16 inches, but some models showing maybe a little bit more for Alta, Snow Basin as well. But a good storm when we can get a foot and a half of snow, we like it, as we'll be seeing maybe continuing snow through Thursday morning. Now, the valleys, you can definitely see noticeable difference, though, as you move upwards and northward along the Wasatch Front. Salt Lake City, maybe a trace to 2 inches. More expected in Ogden through Brigham City, Logan as well. Wasatch back, it's on a range of 4 to 8 inches because we'll have the colder air, but the central southern end of the Wasatch Front, because it's going to be a mixture of some rain and snow, less snow accumulation expected. Here's the storm. We showed you moving through central Nevada. It gets here. Let's talk about the timing of it all. We've got the clock here at 9 o'clock. Once we hit about 2 a.m. here along the Wasatch Front, the storm hits. Notice it's a lot of blue. We'll see kind of some wet snow showers, but noticing, though, we are seeing a little bit of pink there. That's a mixture of rain and snow. As we move through the day, as temperatures do warm up, we'll bounce back and forth between rain and snow, especially across the central and southern end of the Wasatch Front. We'll have the showers going through the morning into the early afternoon. Then we get a little break for the afternoon commute, except through the canyons. Then overnight, we see another round of some showers, which could provide for some extra or treacherous road conditions for Thursday morning, especially throughout the canyons. Now tonight, it's going to be chilly. Teens in Logan as well as in Ogden. Overnight lows getting down into the 20s here throughout the rest of the Wasatch Front. As we'll be looking for central and southern Utah, you'll get into the mix come tomorrow as that front does push through. Now, once it does push through early morning hours, it's the focus for the morning commute. We're definitely going to see some wet roads, slushy road conditions the further north you go along the Wasatch Front. Again, canyon travel will be an issue here throughout northern central Utah, Spanish Fork Canyon. The further south you go, you'll see some light showers, potentially from Fillmore through Cedar City. Not seeing much of an impact for St. George, where you've got partly cloudy skies and 50s and warming up through the weekend. But then by Sunday, the next storm hits. It brings rain for St. George, as we'll keep chances of showers going for 3 days up until next week, Tuesday. Northern Utah, that mixture of rain and snow. Tomorrow, then some snow showers early Thursday morning. Then we get a break, but late Saturday, we start to see some rain. As you'll look at these temperatures, another storm coming in from the west. It'll be mild. So valley rain, mountain snow, and several more inches expected. So these are good storms to keep the air mixed out, good storms to keep help building that snowpack, as we'll get some wet weather all throughout the weekend. We'll be back right after the break.
The Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court spoke to the Utah legislature today.
It is a major speech that will have impacts on your life. Fox 13 court reporter Lucy Nelson shows us why.
The state's highest court is composed of 5 justices, which oversees the judicial branch of government. This past year, the Utah Supreme Court made history with a majority of women, but the court system gets funding that relies on legislative decisions. This year, more than just budget requests were brought up before the Utah State Legislature. Think public trust and keeping the judiciary independent of political influence.
It seems that distrust in all institutions, especially governmental ones, seems to have increased exponentially.
Why does public perception and trust in the court matter?
A national poll was conducted and it found that 77% of Americans think that crime is going up, but that's opposite of the actual data.
Steve Burton heads the Utah Defense Attorney Association. He says FBI and Utah statistics show that crime has been going down for decades, despite public thinking it's going up. That has an impact when it comes to what happens in the legislative session because there's more pressure on the legislature to increase penalties or create new criminal laws.
Chief Justice's speech today, he talked about rebuilding trust in government institutions. And so if the public thinks that the judiciary is failing because they're not punishing people enough, and they think that crime is going up when in fact it's going down, then the legislature is going to try to force judges to be more harsh in their sentences and in their punishments. But that leads to injustice because the judge's job is to consider both sides of a situation, hear the details of the prosecution and the defense and the victims, and then make their best decision based upon all the information that they're given.
As the third branch of government, the courts often weigh in on laws the legislature passes. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court spoke about the need for judicial independence.
In Utah, judges don't get selected based on how well they could campaign or how much money they could raise. They get selected based on the reputation they have developed as lawyers over the course of their professional lives for integrity, honesty, fair-mindedness, and intellectual capacity.
Unlike some other states, judges don't need to run against another candidate for the job. They're selected by the governor and confirmed by the Senate. They are on the ballots, but as a yes or no retention vote, something Durant says is very precious and told lawmakers that it was his hope to preserve. On the Hill, Lucy Nelson, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A saltwater lake half a world away that was decimated by environmental change.
If we can't get more water to the lake, sacrificing part of the lake is one of the proposals on the table.
The lessons we can learn from the Aral Sea that could save the Great Salt Lake.
The Jazz are on a roll, 6 wins in a row. We'll hear from Simone Fontecchio on what's working right now for this team.
Welcome back, everyone. The Bureau of Land Management recently closed more than 300 miles of trails in Moab, sparking controversy between environmental concerns and access to public lands.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us how Utah's off-road community will fight during this legislative session to keep the trails open.
317 miles of trails are now closed in the Labyrinth Rims Gemini Bridges area as part of the BLM's new travel management plan.
Ski season's on everyone's mind. This would be like closing 30% of the routes at Snowbird or Alta, some of our most popular ski resorts. That's how popular these trails are.
The Blue Ribbon Coalition has taken the BLM to federal court in a lawsuit to open the trails. Executive Director Ben Burr says multiple Utah legislators are sponsoring bills that would restrict funding to the agency if they keep trying to close trails.
We don't want to see the state of Utah spending money, giving money to the BLM through grants to build infrastructure that they're just going to close down through a radical travel plan.
Those defending the BLM's decision say the trails need to be closed to protect Moab's precious resources.
They are required by law to minimize damage to natural and cultural resources, including riparian areas, cultural sites, wildlife habitat, soils.
Laura Peterson with the Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance says she's confident that legislators won't support attempts to open the trails.
There's been a lot of sort of sky is falling rhetoric saying that, the agency cut off access, and that's just not accurate. There's still thousands of miles of off-road vehicle routes in the greater Moab area.
Meanwhile, the Blue Ribbon Coalition continues to gain support in its legal battle, recently receiving a $100,000 donation from the Utah Public Lands Alliance.
We consider this to be a way of life for those of us that like to go out and recreate this way. And so for the BLM to close that down is really just taking away some really cherished experiences that people have built generations of love around.
Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Water conservation in Utah largely surrounds the Great Salt Lake. Around the world, there are countless lessons to be learned from other communities built around large bodies of water.
Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph takes us halfway around the world to an inland sea that at one point was nearly 10 times larger than the Great Salt Lake.
The Great Salt Lake has seen better days, but it's seen worse too. Headlines 2 years ago spelled disaster for the important economic and environmental behemoth in our backyard. Mother Nature and policy progress have raised the lake several feet and allowed the conversation around conservation to continue. But a world away, the tides of another massive body of water spells a cautionary tale towards our own Great Lake. The Aral Sea is located on the border between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Today, the lake is estimated to have shrunk to just a tenth of the size of its record height as the fourth largest lake in the world. This might look like it happened over thousands of years, but what's more alarming is it happened during most of our lifetimes. Take a look at this time lapse starting in 1984 and fast forwarding up to 2022. The images make it clear just how much has been lost. Today, you can still see the giant steel cranes that once functioned as a part of the Kazakh port of Aral, standing like monuments to a better time. Beached boats sit on the town's boardwalk, and camels roam the desert where once a thriving fish operation was based. This is Akshabak Bakhtamova. She grew up here with her father fishing every single morning. Then, following the family business, she left to study to become a marine biologist. But when she returned, Bakhtamova has witnessed the side effect of the Soviet Union diverting the main rivers that fed the Aral Sea. But in the early 2000s, Kazakhstan tried to save part of the lake by building a dam that essentially slices the Aral Sea in two. It allows a huge tributary to fill a much smaller part of the lake's basin. The water levels on the lake's northern side rose again. The water turned fresh, and fish even returned, reviving the region's fishing operation. In Utah, scientists and resource managers are trying something similar because the Great Salt Lake has also dipped so low.
If we can't get more water to the lake, sacrificing part of the lake is one of the proposals on the table.
Bonnie Baxter is the director of the Great Salt Lake Institute at Westminster University. The idea is relatively simple for us because there's already a railroad causeway that divides the lake on the northwest corner where no water comes in. In 2022, the Great Salt Lake became so salty, scientists worried the entire ecosystem could collapse. So they filled a breach in the causeway, which made it much easier to manage the lake's southern section.
It's kind of nice that we have this management tool that's frankly very inexpensive.
But Baxter says even with a barrier, you need a long-term strategy. The largest feeder of the Great Salt Lake is the Bear River. It runs through 3 states, all who communicate and work to maintain the flow of water. Kazakhstan, on the other hand, does not have a clear strategy. This year, Kazakhstan received so little water from upstream, the fish started dying again. This great success story is turning into a new disaster. Eidarbek Altay Uli is a fisherman on the Aral Sea. He's made his livelihood fishing these waters. All due to many of the factors we've talked about, a lesson Utah could learn from, that despite good intentions, without continued conservation, we could lose all our good work.
We actually can use the Aral Sea as an example of where we don't want to go.
As for locals, this place is their life, their livelihoods, and they understandably don't want to leave their homes. So despite the odds, they feel adapting is better than giving up. Summed up best by one fisherman named Darhan Yembergenov.
Я здесь родился, мой дом здесь. Куда мне идти? В Солт-Лейк-Сити? Там тоже воды нету, да?
Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Fox 13 News is part of the Great Salt Lake Collaborative. It's a group of local news outlets, academic groups, and community organizations calling attention to the Great Salt Lake and ways to save it. You can find out more by visiting greatsaltlakenews.org.
4 months after the deadly shooting of Ja'Kai Watkins, charges have been filed against Felix Diego Rufino.
Police say Watkins and Diego Rufino got into a fight at a party in Sugar House, and Diego Rufino and another person shot Watkins from a car as he walked through a parking lot. Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill filed several charges against Rufino, including 1 count of first-degree felony murder and 6 counts of first-degree felony discharge of a firearm with serious bodily injury.
Police have identified the snowmobiler who died when they were hit by a semi-truck on Sunday. Christopher Brown was part of a group of snowmobilers who had parked in the Chicken Creek parking area, unloaded machines, and were trying to recover a snowmobile near Strawberry Reservoir that was having mechanical problems. As they tried to cross SR 40 from the parking lot, the eastbound semi hit the snowmobile. The snowmobile driver died at the scene. SR 40 was closed for about 3 hours afterward.
A lawsuit has been filed against Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes and Katie Haas, director of the Utah Department of Commerce, over the new law requiring social media users to verify their age. The group Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression says the law second-guesses Utah families' judgments about how to manage young people's social media use. The Utah Social Media Regulation Act is scheduled to take effect March 1st. It would require minors to obtain parental consent to access social media. The plaintiffs claim that violates the First Amendment and Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. The suit was filed in U.S. District Court. It seeks to have the law declared unconstitutional and unenforceable. No word yet on when it will come up in courts.
An early morning fire shut down Nordic Valley Ski Resort yesterday. Coming up, we will look at what's being done now to help employees.
Plus, the message from the family of a 3-year-old boy who died after swallowing a screw. A West Valley City family is sharing their tragic story in hopes of saving other people's lives after losing their son in a tragic accident a few weeks ago. Ben McLeod passed away on December 29th. He had swallowed a screw that lodged in his throat almost 2 weeks prior. McLeod's mother, Amber Cloward, says she still has no idea where the screw came from.
Dad started doing chest compressions. I called the EMTs, and then we tried to breathe for him, but we didn't know that his vocal cords were already shut. After that, he suffered a cardiac arrest, and then we did find out later that he had, it's called a Chiari malformation. So what that did is it made everything go from bad to worse.
A GoFundMe page has been set up for the boy's family. We have that along with additional information on what to do if a child is choking. It's all on our website, fox13now.com.
Staff at Nordic Valley Ski Resort in Eden are trying to now figure out the next steps after a massive fire forced the ski resort to close yesterday. It comes at what is typically the most lucrative time of the year for the resort, and it's mainly seasonal employees.
Most of the mountain jobs, so lift operator, lift mechanic, groomers, kind of snowmakers, they're going to return business as kind of usual pretty soon. But anybody that was involved in working in the barn, so working in F&B, working the bar, working kind of retail, might not return to work. We might not have anything for them.
Nordic Valley's general manager says they are bringing in trailers to run ticketing and get the lifts start running as soon as possible. Also working on relocating some employees to food trucks and other options.
Well, before we go to a break, I want to share another camera in Nevada. This one closer towards the state. Elko, seeing the snow falling. When does the snow hit the state? And will you be doing some shoveling come tomorrow morning? I'll answer that after the break.
Jazz are on a roll right now, 6 wins in a row, and they're doing it as a team without a regular closing lineup. And the 20th ranked BYU basketball team faced off against 24th ranked Iowa State tonight. Could they get a second straight win in the Big 12? The highlights are on the way.
A brand new multi-million-dollar baking facility is set to bring hundreds of jobs to Salt Lake City next year. The Mars Incorporated company announced plans for the $237 million facility to house operations for Nature's Bakery. The building will be nearly 339,000 square feet. It will provide 190 jobs when it opens in July of 2025. According to the company, Nature's Bakery is the 8th best-selling granola and snack bar brand.
Well, ahead of the opening of the new temple in Taylorsville, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints announced its open house and dedication dates. Starting on Saturday, April 13th, the temple will begin its open house. That'll continue through May 18th. The temple will hold its dedication in 2 sessions on Sunday, June 2nd, with Elder Garrett W. Gong of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles conducting the ceremony.
Getting ready for our next storm system. Right now it's the calm before the storm, but also the cold here across northern Utah. Chilly out there, temperatures in the low 20s. However, we're going to warm up before we start to see the precipitation as we look towards tomorrow morning. It's actually going to warm up in the overnight hours versus seeing temperatures drop, but it's cold out there. I mentioned up in Logan, we're sub-zero temperatures. Even looking over towards Brigham City this hour, we've got single-digit temperatures. In preparation from the National Weather Service, winter weather advisories in place across the mountains of northern through central Utah. As I mentioned, though, throughout some of the valleys across extreme northern Utah, you're under that winter weather advisory where snow will fall, it will accumulate, and we start to see that accumulation here in the overnight hours. Now, how much are we talking about as we go from tonight through early Thursday morning? 10 to 16 inches for the northern mountains. Could see some more Cottonwood Canyons, also up near Snow Basin, Wasatch back 4 to 8 inches. Box Elder, Cache County, this is where you're going to be doing some shoveling come tomorrow morning, pushing through the northern end of the Wasatch Front. Salt Lake and Tooele Valleys, yeah, you might be doing a little brief shoveling come tomorrow morning. The further south you go, the less snow accumulation you're going to see, especially as we turn towards central Utah. Maybe a trace to about 1/2 inch of snow expected. Now, with this storm system is coming in from the west. We're seeing some clouds here across northern Utah, but the focus right now currently along I-80 as I was showing you some of the traffic cameras. Winnemucca over towards Elko now pushing through, soon to arrive. See that we can start seeing that snow hitting between 2 and 3 a.m. It's been cold enough, though, that of course at the surface it will quickly stick. But as we look with this next storm going through tomorrow into early Thursday morning, the brunt of the snow and the accumulation across the mountains and for extreme northern Utah. You're seeing lighter colors tracking blue along I-15, I-70, Richville over towards Cedar City. I mentioned accumulations, maybe a trace upwards inch at most. But here across the Salt Lake Valley, the range was anywhere between 1 to 2 inches. We start to see the showers going at 2 a.m., keeping the snow going through your morning commute. Benches definitely will be an issue. Going through the canyons, treacherous roads. Notice by 9 a.m., 10 a.m., we start to see temperatures warming up. It starts to turn from snow to a mixture of rain and snow. And again, further south you go along the Wasatch Front, the warmer the air, the better chance of seeing that mixture of rain and snow. Now, highs tomorrow, warmer. Close to average, low 40s expected in Provo, even warmer through central Utah. So the showers as they're pushing through central Utah, definitely seeing a mixture of some rain and snow. Now St. George, you're missing out with this storm, but it's the second storm as we get closer towards the weekend. That's when you start to see a better chance of some rain. So keeping that break and warming up where highs get up in the upper 50s, even close to 60 degrees as we start the weekend off. Sunday, though, the rain hits that next storm with some showers on Monday, lingering on into Tuesday morning. Now, for northern Utah, it's a wintry mix. It's a mixture of that rain and snow. But with the second storm, boy, we're going to be looking at temperatures, again, under that westerly flow, more mild. Rain in the valleys for certain there. Saturday into Sunday, Monday as well. Early Tuesday morning, we'll hold on to some rain. So get ready for the storm to hit and get ready to have some wet roads come tomorrow morning.
Well, there was a top 25 matchup tonight in Provo with 24th ranked Iowa State at number 20 BYU. The Cougars going after their second straight Big 12 win. First half we go, Dallin Hall gets it out to Jackson Robinson. Ball faked and drains the three, put BYU up 6. He finished with 15 points. Here's another assist from Hall to Spencer Johnson, one of his 4 threes. BYU led it by 4 at the half, but they dominated the second half. Johnson to Richie Saunders, bucket and the foul, 3-point play. He finished with 12 points. Johnson led the Cougars with 28 points, follows up the miss and scores to put BYU up by 20. The Cougars won it 87-72 to improve to 14-3 overall, 2-2 in Big 12 play. 16th ranked Utah State is playing a late game at New Mexico. The Aggies going after their 16th win in a row. They get it inside to great Osabor, who throws it down, but the Lobos are playing well at the pit. Donovan Dent the steal, and he takes it all the way to the rim. New Mexico leads it 55-39 at the half. The Jazz are the hottest team in the NBA. They've won 6 games in a row, 9 of their last 10 games, and they're doing it with different closing lineups. That may upset some NBA players, but the Jazz players have accepted who Will Hardy puts out there to end games.
We are all adults. We know, like, okay, he's having a great game. You should finish the game. Sometimes, I'm not playing that good, so maybe, just sit out maybe at the end of the game. But everybody understands their role. Sometimes it's not even that, it's matchups, like defensively too. Like this lineup is really working well, so just keep them on the court. So there are no egos in this team. Like everybody understands what we're doing. It's winning basketball, and everybody is willing to do whatever it takes to win.
Well, training camp is underway for Real Salt Lake as they start to prepare for the season opener on February 21st at Miami. There's some big names not back this season in Damir Krylak and Jefferson Savarino, but they hope other players will fill those spots.
Anytime there's a void, it'll always be filled. And so there could be a young man in this camp that nobody knows. For example, a player like Fidel Barajas has shown well these last 2 days. For a young player to have the type of field presence that he has is really, really exciting. And so that's what we're using these first couple of weeks is to identify a lot of players that we have and get as fit as we can, changing the way we want to attack, to then go to Portugal and play in a couple friendlies and see how we are.
They're sending me to Portugal to cover those games.
As well we should.
No,
yes.
But it seems like the season just ended, and now all of a sudden they're back. It's a really quick off-season for Major League Soccer.
And the off-season, those guys were working hard.
Yeah.
during the off-season.
Sure they are.
Yeah. Well, I hope you can go to Portugal.
Yeah, let's cross our fingers.
We'll start a GoFundMe page.
Bob will go talk to our boss tomorrow about it.
Obrigado. That's thank you.
Thanks, Jeb.
Yeah. We'll be right back. This was National Printing Ink Day.
Tell me more.
All right. One Utah museum celebrated. I don't know if you guys have been to this museum before. I have. This is really, really crazy. The Crandall Printing Museum in Alpine was founded in 1996. It was originally down in Provo, in downtown Provo, moved to Alpine, and has several different kinds of printing presses and artifacts. Today, the museum held ink-making demonstrations of mokuhanga. Mokuhanga ink is an ancient Japanese way of printing on wood cuts, which differs from Western oil-based ink. Museum is open for tours based on the Gutenberg Press, Benjamin Franklin's work, and even the Book of Mormon.
Wow, that's really neat.
It is a fascinating museum.
It looks like art, right?
Yeah.
Just the printed words. It's so pretty.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
You got to visit. It's great.
I'm sold.
All right.
Quick Cast is next.